So you're a widely published household name in photography. Did you imagine you would end up producing the kind of work that you are now when you first started?
Oh God, no. I don't know anybody who ever could really imagine where the art would take them. No, in the beginning, it wasn't even about so much as where I wanted to be. I really just tried to be better than the picture before. So that's always been my goal, even back then. And it's the same even now. Like every time I take a photo and edit it, I always try and like bring with me the lessons that I've learned from my experience before, and then try and make what I'm doing now in the present better than that.
There's a quote of yours from an interview I read a little while ago, which is attention to detail is what sets a great picture apart from a good picture. So how do you maintain that high attention to detail? And was it something that you had to teach yourself?
Oh, definitely something I had to teach myself. I actually started thinking about things that way when I met my partner. So Pratik Naik, he's a high-end retoucher. Like that's his job. He retouches images. And when we first started working together, I would show him my pictures and ask him to clean it. Well, to just do his thing. And then while talking to him, he would be like, yeah, I did this and the other. And I noticed that as a retoucher, you have to be really attention detail orientated because you're cleaning the scene. And so once that spark happened in my mind, like, oh, you can do that, that's when I think things really began to shift for my creative eye, because I started to really be really analytical about exactly what was not just what I would edit in Photoshop, but really what was noticeable in the frame as I was taking a photo. So I got that really from him.
How do you maintain that? Obviously, because of the amount of shoots that you're doing, is it something that you have to kind of have a checklist with you, or do you take a moment like as you go to start a set to just make sure everything's in place?
A little bit of both, actually. So I definitely have a checklist. A checklist is really useful, especially if you have a lot of things you need to keep in mind. So I always make sure I have a physical checklist. But then obviously when you're in the thick of a shoot, you can't really, sometimes refer back to the checklist. But that's usually when I would give myself a pause. And after every shot or after every 10 shots, take a minute, go through the files, see what it is that I need to sharpen, tidy up. And if I have my checklist handy, I'll just quickly take it out of my pocket and just go through making sure that I'm hitting everything that I want to hit, because we're only in that moment of the shoot once. So you kind of want to nail it as best as possible. So just try and, whatever you can do to make that whole process easier for yourself, just do it. But after a while, it does become routine. There'll definitely be some things that you will remember just because you do it all the time. It just becomes normal.
So your work is a blend of fashion and beauty mixed with fairy tales. Why do fairy tales play such a huge part in your inspiration?
Honestly, because I love fantasy and fantasy books and fantasy movies and fantasy storylines. I don't know why. I've always been really connected with them ever since I was little. I just love the whimsy of it all and the fact that anything can happen in those worlds. We're not, a lot of the storylines, people can fly and there's dragons and there's talking animals and there's just, a scope of imagination that we just don't, and possibility that we just don't have in our real world. So I'm really drawn to that. So that does come into my work when I am making personal work, because at the end of the day, personal work is work just for yourself, and it's where all of your interests come and collide and create something that is uniquely you. So yeah, that's where that comes from.
So when you're developing a concept for a shoot, do you collaborate with the team at the idea stage, or do you plan everything yourself and then just direct the team accordingly?
So depends on whether I'm shooting for myself or whether I'm shooting for a client. So whenever I'm shooting for a client, I always make sure that the client is fully involved from the very beginning, and that I am also incredibly involved from the very beginning. And we bring the idea together and the concept is worked on together. And some clients are, easy and they let me, kind of have my free creative brain, and that's wonderful. Mm-hmm. But it's different when you're working with a client. And then when I'm working for myself, I make sure that I reach out to designers and a team that I want to bring together for a particular vision that I have. And in that case, I'm the one very much running the ship. So the creative vision for that moving forward is pretty much all of me. But then at the same time, you can't really say that, because if I'm bringing together designers and stuff like that, usually their pieces of clothes or their outfits or, headpieces, etc., will play a huge part in the concept of like how an image is born.
Okay.
So yeah, it's definitely a mixture of collaboration and my own creative vision.
So based on the idea of your own personal work, if that was to be of interest to a publication, would you compromise your original idea for the publication, or would you prefer to kind of retain the creative control but lose the potential for that publication?
That's a really good question. I think it really depends on what you're after. So if you are after getting a lot more into magazines, etc., then you're just going to have to meet their ideas and what they're looking for. So yeah, that's definitely something that you should do. And then if you're somebody who also who's not so interested in that, then just stick to your own thing. However, you can also compromise. So I do believe that it is possible to shoot for the publication, get those images out of the way, and then take like an hour after the shoot and just shoot your own and bring your own vision to life. So I don't think you can be limited, and I don't think you should be limited. Try and find a way to make it work.
So given that you post a lot of your images as stories, how important is it for you to get standalone shots as well as the connective shots behind the narrative?
I don't know. I think initially when I first started sharing my work, it wasn't even so much about stories. It was actually about the standalone shot, because at that time when I was shooting, I didn't have much time. So I would always focus on just the one shot. And to be honest, I find myself still really drawn to it. And then that one shot began to expand into a narrative that I wanted to explore. So it just depends on how strong I feel that I can deliver a story during the shoot itself. So I always try and give myself more options now, where I will definitely nail that one shot, because I do feel the hero shots are what I'm still very much about. And then whenever possible, I will definitely take the narrative shots too, because I do feel like, especially for different platforms, it does add to the magic of that one hero shot. So I'm really conscious of social media, as you can tell. So yeah, I definitely noticed that a lot of I love telling stories, but I also noticed that a lot of people who follow me on social media love the stories too. And that's why the narratives started to really kind of come alive, because of the feedback I was getting from people. So
with your images being so detailed, on set, how much room is there for improvisation?
Oh, loads of room. I think a lot of people are under the misconception that I plan every detail out and a vision comes to life exactly as I envisioned it. But actually, that's not true. What happens usually is I'll have a rough idea of what I want to create. And then the reality is that the vision itself is born when I'm in the process of capturing it. So that's when I really take into account what's happening with the light, what's happening with the shadow, what's happening with the model and her expression. And all of these things feed the overall image, but they happen in real time. So yeah, I don't over-plan, but I plan enough that when it's in front of me, I can bring it to life. And that's usually when a lot of the detail part comes into it. So when it's when I'm there on shoot, I will tidy up all the details. I will take away details, add details. And then later in Photoshop, I control that even more.
So I apologize in advance because this is quite a broad question. But in your opinion, can creativity be taught?
That's a really interesting question. I don't know if it can be taught as much as a space invited for people to open up. I do believe that everybody is creative. Honestly, we all are. We can't live our life without, being creative in one way or another. So if something's broken in your house, you fix it. Guess what? You're being creative when you're fixing it. Or if you're making a cake, then you're being creative by making a cake. And especially if you're cooking and you're just throwing in spices, you're being creative. So I don't think creativity needs to be taught. I do think creativity needs to be, I just think people need to be opened up to it more. Because when we're little as children, we are always told we can do anything we ever wanted to, and we're invited to try loads of different things. And then the older we get, suddenly we're painting less, or we're drawing less, or we're doing less and less things, and we're kind of told that academics is the right way to go. And there's more pressure placed on that, like getting grades, which, it's obviously it's all fine. But I do think that when it comes to creativity, just being open to the fact that you can do whatever you want is a form of creativity. And then all that's left after that is exploring all the different education platforms out there that will feed your knowledge in whatever interest you have. So I think that's something that we're not encouraged to do as much as possible. Like, we're not encouraged to feed that interest, but we should.
What qualities are you looking for in a model for your work?
Honestly, a good attitude. So when it comes to shooting, with me especially, it's not easy because I do take us out into the woods, or I do take us, into some really muddy places, and it might be a really cold day and it might be raining, and I'll still be like, actually, I still want to shoot with the rainy weather. So it's not always easy, but having a model with a really great attitude is something that is really invaluable to me, because also what then happens is that connection, if we haven't met before, translates into friendship. And so nearly all the people that I've ever worked with, I can honestly say we've become friends after that, because it's such an intimate thing to shoot. And whenever I'm shooting, it is very we're connecting. So yeah, I just think a really good attitude is just really important.
A kind of a weird question, but are you more critical of images when they're of a model as opposed to a self-portrait, or are you more critical of yourself compared to the model?
But honestly, no, I'm critical either way. I'm really critical whether it's myself or whether it's somebody else, because especially with a lot of my work, it's incredibly character driven. So it's not even so much about who they are or who I am. It's about how is the character coming alive in this image. And so, yeah, when I step out of it like that, I'm equally as critical.
Do you have a favorite set of images from your portfolio?
Yes and no. So no, because I love them all, because they're all my babies. And yes, because some of them have stories that I just connect with more. So there's an image called The Kiss. It's on my website. It's also on my blog and on my YouTube, because I made a video about it. And I'm particularly connected to that because of the way it came together. It was a really serendipitous shoot, and one that I'd been planning for a really long time in my head, but the cards had never played out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, until that day, until within 2 days, all the pieces were together. We'd had, I had a message from a friend saying, oh, I'd recommend another friend who's coming from Australia. And it was just really strange, but wonderful how it all came together. And we went out to shoot it. And usually it's raining in England, and it was beautifully sunny. So yeah, it was just a moment. There was just a lot of lovely serendipitous moments that felt like we were all exactly what we were meant to be at that point in time.
Do you often have sets of images that don't work out, or shoots that just have real setbacks, that just it doesn't end up going in the direction you want it to, and you have to scrap it?
Oh my God, so many. I actually have a lot of shoots to edit, just because I've been really nervous to face them, actually, because the shoot itself wasn't the best. Not for any other reason from anybody else, because everybody else performed wonderfully. It was honestly just myself. I wasn't in the right mental space. And that does happen because, we're all people. And there've definitely been times when I haven't been feeling the best or the most creative or particularly inspired, but we've pulled together a shoot and I feel like I have to execute it. So yeah, it's normal. It's just human nature, but ultimately it's worth to go back and see what you've created. And even if it doesn't work out, it's okay too, because even from then I've learned a lot of lessons about myself and how to manage my mental health so that I can perform really well on shoots.
Do you have a favorite photographer or favorite photographers currently?
I do have a photographer that I admire. I don't know if I would call him my favorite photographer, but I have somebody that I do really admire. And that's Tim Walker. He's a British photographer here in the UK. And I really am drawn to his ethos in the way he creates his pictures. His work obviously has changed style, because as any photographer and artist, your work evolves with you. And his work has evolved, but his ethos is still the same. He's still very playful and very imaginative. And that ethos is what I'm drawn to. I try to like bring that with me, with my work. And I try to, lessen a lot of the pressures on myself and make my work as light and playful as possible for me. And then hopefully that energy translates into the finished pieces.
So the changes that you make to your images in terms of color in post-production, is that something that's planned at the shooting stage, or is that left open to possibilities when you come around to editing it?
A little bit of both. I definitely can say honestly now, I'm a lot more conscious about color on set. So I never really used to be before when I was shooting earlier in my journey, because at that time you're focusing more on like, poses and lighting, etc. But now I definitely am a lot more conscious of color from the very beginning. How does the scene look in front of me? And how can I utilize the colors in front of me so that I can like make them the best in post-production? And you can only kind of get to that place when you're really comfortable, I think, in post-production too. So I'm very much a color junkie. I even have my own color toning platform where I share my colors with my community, because, it's something that I slowly became known for. And I've definitely started to become really critical of myself, because whenever you're teaching something, you want to be very good at it. So yeah, it's just fantastic. Like everything I learn now, I just share.
So I think you're referring to the Color Lab. So for people that don't know what that is, do you want to just give us a rundown of what that is?
Yeah, sure. So the Color Lab is my little color toning platform. And I really started it so that I could share everything that I've learned so far in my journey. So I'm an educator anyway. I do workshops and I give talks, but colors are something that's really difficult to translate on a, in a just like a 1 day class, because there's so many nuances about how to color tone and then how to approach color toning in particular. So the color toning platform is one that I set up so that anybody from around the world has access to great color toning education and ethos and approach. And yeah, there's loads of products on there. That are both my own. And then what I've also done is I've started reaching out to other leading photographers in our field and asking them to create custom tones for us and custom educational videos for us. So yeah, if you're interested in taking your colors to another level, or learning more about color toning, then yeah, go ahead, check it out. And I hope there's something in there for you.
Apologies if this is a stupid question, but the presets and actions and whatnot, are they created sort of for the website, or are they something that you have sort of built over time and integrated into your work and then you're passing on?
So that's a really good question. I do get asked that a lot. And actually the real answer is I make those actions for myself. And then when the ones that I really, really like, I then package them and sell them on my color shop. So I don't believe in like selling something just because they are like just for something. I always try and like make sure I stand behind my product. So everything that's on my shop is stuff that I use already. Because otherwise what's the point? I have to completely love it and use it in my own work, which I do. And it made my whole workflow really easy. And that's why I sell it, and I'm so proud of it.
So you've obviously got an enormous social media following. You're widely published. You're really well known as a photographer. But do you suffer from the same thing that a lot of people do when it comes to like imposter syndrome, where you start to worry about your work, or you start to dislike your work from time to time? You get a bit low about the stuff that you're putting out, and then you kind of have to either take a break or boost yourself back up into enjoying it again.
Oh gosh, yes. I honestly don't know anybody who hasn't experienced that, especially when you're a creator. So I'm still kind of a little bit in the middle of it, but more to the end of it now. But I really started suffering with imposter syndrome around 2017, when photography started to become a little bit more serious as a career. And yeah, that's when I really began to struggle with imposter syndrome and just really feeling like everything I created was not good, really bad. And it took a good 2 years to get over it. So 2017, 18, and half of 2019 were really difficult for me. And the only way I actually started getting over it was by investing in education and learning about my skill set. Because if I know that my skill set is, I felt like in my head, by understanding my skill level and knowing that I could deliver great images and, really testing and doing a lot of personal work in different settings. So knowing that I could deliver something that I said I wanted to, that really, really does help with the imposter syndrome, because you start to have a tangible thing that you can say, like, yes, I can deliver that. And that was a problem before. I think before I felt like I couldn't, and that I said I could, but the reality was I wasn't really 100% certain that I could. So I really pushed myself to become better at my craft. And so that way I could, use that as a way to tell myself that it's okay, you can do this. I had imposter syndrome in so many other ways now, but again, you just had to tackle it and see what the problem is. And then, just make a little plan on how to tackle it, and help yourself.
So you said about teaching, that you do educating. How did that sort of start for you, and what have you learned about yourself from doing it?
So I kind of started with workshops. So around 2015, I held my first workshop and I really enjoyed it. I surprised myself by how much I enjoyed it. And I had always thought that, I'd worked so hard for all this knowledge and I'd worked really hard for this skill set, and it took me so long to get there that it felt really strange to just share everything really quickly in one day. But after that, I was watching the students that I'd had, and their work level had, become a lot better, and they were so proud of the images that they were showing me and their improvements. And to know that I had played that part in their journey, and it was such a positive feeling that I'd played such a great part in their creative journey, that is what inspired me to really start thinking about making more educational opportunities. So I started doing more workshops, and we did a couple of retreats. And then I started getting invited by other people to host workshops in their countries. And then through it all, a community started to form. And I now have a community over on Facebook. For anybody who wants to join, it's Fairytales and Fantasy with Bella Kotak. And there's a community over there of all of the people who are inspired by my photography, or just, fairy tale photography anyway. And I share things in there too. So I really find it wonderful to learn and share. And especially when you're in that position, what also happens is that you become really inspired to learn more so that you can share more. So because I was sharing a lot and I felt oh no, that's it. I've shared everything I know. That's now inspired me to learn more. So anything that I'm nervous about, I go out of my way, learn, shoot, test, understand it, and then come back and share it. So it helps you grow too. So you give a lot, but you receive a lot. You receive even more, I think, actually. Yeah.
Your partner is a retoucher and a photographer himself. Is that a good dynamic to have where you're both creatives? Does there any times where you kind of clash over ideas, or do you kind of feed into each other's creativity?
We definitely feed into each other's creativity. I think it's really wonderful how we met. And also just the kind of person he is. He's not somebody who is competitive in our partnership. And it's the same with me. We don't compete at all because we really respect each other's vision. So he's a retoucher, which is wonderful because I take photos. But his actual initial passion before retouching was photography. So through working with me and working with other photographers, and I'm very supportive anyway. So yeah, he's started to take up photography. So he's actually shooting now. And I do know some couples who are both photographers, and some really struggle with that because they almost clash a bit too much. But if you can find a partner who's in the same industry as you, it really does make it so easy, especially because we have so much in common and we can work together. And I think for us, it's really important that if he wins, I'm winning too. And if I win, he's winning. We're both 100% on each other's team. So there's nothing about competition at all there, which is really, really great.
How are you coping with the lockdown? Are you finding ways to still be creative? Are you planning out new shoots? How are you coping with it all? I'm
keeping myself really busy. So I think that with the lockdown, initially I got really, as we all did, I think, really strange feelings and a bit nervous about what things, how the world is changing and feeling unsettled. But I think I work really well when I have a list of things to do, and it almost serves as a distraction. So basically anything that distracts you, whether that's Netflix or cleaning or whatever, is, not a bad thing. So right now for me, I'm in spending this time tidying up my life a little bit. So a lot of admin work and the color lab. So I'm focusing on it 100% because I'm not traveling and I'm not shooting my photography work. So right now my educational platform is getting all of my attention. We've created some new products for it. I've been going through my PSDs and I've decided to do some digital backdrops. So they're coming soon. It's just really, really exciting for me because everything that I'd had planned for this platform, I now have the time to do it. So I'm going to make the most of it.
So something that we do at the end of all of these is make sure, and it feels slightly ironic for me to be doing this considering the size of your following, but we try and make sure that everyone knows where they can find you online. So if you could let us know your social media links and your website and so on.
Yeah, so you can find me on any platform with the username Bella Kotak. I'm really lucky that I managed to grab the name across all the platforms. So I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, YouTube, and Facebook, my Facebook page. And I'm also on TikTok now. I just started TikToking yesterday. So that's very exciting. But yeah, you can find me anywhere online under Bella Kotak. And IG actually is a place where I am most of the time on Instagram. So if you want to connect with me, most likely just drop me a message on Instagram.
Thank you so much for doing this. It's been wonderful to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. This was great.